There's a quote, I want to tease out some quotes from Irish writers, because I think it's as fascinating as kind of like a launch pad. But Oscar Wilde's got a quote which is, everything popular is wrong. And I think about that a lot.
Yeah.
And I'd love to know, like, what's one truth you believe staunchly that you think most people would disagree with you on?
Oh, I'll give you a good one. I don't think there's any such thing as a good trend.
Any such thing as a good trend?
People always ask me, or often ask me in these things, what do you think the next new thing is going to be? What's the next new trend? What do you think are the trends going to be next year? And I've always kind of avoided that, because if you try and think, everybody's going to drink, I don't know, pear cider, and you focus on that, it might work for a little bit, but it won't work for a long time. And eventually you'll be seen as, that's the pear cider guy. You know, you're much better off thinking, what do people always like? And what have they always enjoyed? Decent beer, comfortable furniture, good lighting, bit of fun. And I always think that way about things that are timeless rather than of a time.
Timeless versus of a time. Yeah, I think there's a guy interviewed called Rory Sutherland, who's like a marketing, really interesting marketing guy who works for Ogilvy, and he was saying that you can only see when, like, as you look, the longer you've been in business, you can see how pointless trends are. But when you're in it for so short a time, it feels like this is where it's going. And I think even vegan meat, like that, everyone thought the whole world was going to fucking change.
Yeah.
With vegan, obviously there's always a vegan dish on the menu now, but even that's beginning to subside.
Yeah,
they've
got burned, those companies, haven't they, quite a bit recently?
Completely burnt.
Yeah.
It's endlessly fascinating. And what is the story you would like? We've talked a lot about stories, but like, what is the story you want people to go and say to their friends after they've been here?
I can answer that really simply. I want people to tell their friends that they felt good, that they felt that they had value for money, and that they had value for time, and to express that in a way that will make other people feel positive about what we're trying to do.
Mm. And then you talked about time versus timeless.
Yeah,
super interesting. How is the Devonshire going to stay timeless?
Well, time's really interesting. I mean, we have a good conversation about time because everyone talks about value, and you know, obviously, you do need to have value, and we've thought carefully about that. You know about the set menu, not 29 quid. You know about the pint of Beck's for £4.95. The Budvar is £4.60. And you can come in here and get a gin and tonic for £8, double gin and tonic for £8. So from a value and price point, we've done that. But price is not value, and we've proposed the concept of value for time rather than value for money, because time is that currency that is way more valuable to people than money. I think time is more important than money, and when someone decides that they're going to spend part of their evening or their whole evening or a lunchtime with us, that's an investment that they've made, that they think, all right, I'm going to go to the Devonshire and I've got a reservation at 1 o'clock and I'm going to be there till 4 and I might stay till 6 for some pints. That's a huge investment of a chunk of their incredibly valuable downtime or their investable time that they give to us. So I think from our point of view, we need to deliver on that. So to make sure that the time they spend it in a way that they feel good about. And that's, I think, a lot of the bits and pieces we do in terms of values and how people feel, and the training and the bits and pieces and the experience and the food and the drink should all feed into that. And that's really where we're coming from on the time front.
And you talked about your training, we've talked about Octopaddy, we've talked about what you're building here. What would you say is like something you know that most other landlords don't know? Like, what are some of your principles that you'd pass on to? I know your daughter Laura is working here as well. Like, what would you pass on?
I don't know. It's a difficult one. I think you just need to be good. Try to be good, and try to be good from the point of view of what the customers feel, not what you think is necessarily what you should be doing. I think it's important to put yourself in the customer's skin and shoes and think about how they feel. What's the atmosphere like? What could be irritating? And try and take those bits out.
That's another thing about the kind of, whether you call it not gastro wank's probably too strong a phrase, but those flat pack pubs, is the noise. Because this one thing I've just thought about when I was on Friday, I was like, because sometimes you can go to a pub and it's really echoey.
Yeah, we think about that too.
Yeah, like how does that, how important is the kind of, the noise of a...
I think it's more that, this is an interesting one for me, because if you go back 40, 50, 60, 100, 200 years into pubs always had nooks, crannies. They had little dividers, screens, soft seating. You think about snugs. You think about those beautiful Victorian screens that would be all through the pubs with glass and nice leather finishes. And then they had the anaglypta, which is this raised... wallpaper, which by the way is very good for soundproofing. And there's another one called Lincrusta that you'll see in old pubs. It's like a very, very heavily textured wallpaper that's got swirls and stuff in it like that. A lot of that stuff was taken out by the big pub co's in the last 30, 40, 50 years on the basis that they thought that if they took it out, they'd have more space. But actually, I have a feeling that people, when they come to the pub, quite often want to hide, that they want to find themselves in a corner or somewhere comfortable and soft and where they don't necessarily want to be seen drinking. Restaurants are different. I think people want to be seen in restaurants. But in pubs, I think it's important to have places where you can't be seen. And we've thought really hard about that. And if you look at the booths and the screens and the way the tables are done, you got places where you won't be seen. And that's important. And carpet is another one, of course, yeah. And a lot of these places, a lot of those old Victorian pubs, they've pulled everything out and they've turned them into like big square rooms. And from there you get this issue with noise and the fact that you can't hide anywhere, that you're so visible. And I don't think that's right for pubs. Not all pubs anyway.
You said your brain is kind of more chaotic, or your mind, the way you think, and I kind of relate to that a lot. How does your brain like work? How does it think?
I don't know the answer to that, but I do know I jump from thought to thought to thought very quickly, and that somehow works for pubs. But the theme of chaos is very important too. I think without chaos, then pubs don't work. There's an element of chaos that has to be there, managed of course and looked after, that makes the excitement and makes things happen. I think if everything's ordered and you use all the same furniture and you have everything really set like a restaurant or beautifully symmetric, then you don't get the flashpoints and the wonder that happens in pubs. The great thing about pubs is you come in here and you stand, you have a pint, you don't know who you're going to end up talking to. And we've always said that we'd like for the bin man and the chairman to be able to meet on a level playing field out there. And that's really, really important to us, that, you know, you could be a billionaire and you could be stood there and you could be talking to somebody who doesn't make very much money, but you can still have a fantastic interaction and a really good experience. And that, believe it or not, happens here all the time.
And how do you create that? Because I love the word chaos is something I think...
Yeah.
The reason I like chaos and imperfection is because every human being has an element of chaos and imperfection, even though with all this... People present ourselves as perfect. I think one of the reasons I think pubs work is, as you say, it's a place you can kind of hide, or the ones that work really well are those little elements of, as you say, the nooks and crannies and the imperfections. Like, that's what humans are ultimately.
Yeah. And I also think most people's lives are so incredibly ordered. You know, people have jobs where they have to be at the desk at a particular time, leave at a particular time. They have to wear a certain uniform. They're not allowed to put their feet on the chairs. They have to work in these spreadsheety, ordered Zoom meeting type environments where their lunch break is at exactly the same time. They get the same train home to work. And then at the weekends, they play golf at the same time and all of this stuff. And I think you need to break out of that a little bit. And I think pubs can really give people kind of a different environment and sensation. And it doesn't matter what you wear when you go to the pub. It doesn't matter what time you come, what time you go, whether you might have to only have a half pint or 1 pint, or you might have 6. If you have a Scotch egg or not, where you sit, where you stand, you can change where you move around. And that, for me, is really, really the essence of what the British pub is. And it gives people the freedom to be chaotic and live in a kind of and spend some time in a chaotic place, which is somehow wholesome.
Yes, chaotic, wholesome chaoticness. Well, yeah, beautiful way of putting
I call it lovely chaos.
Lovely chaos.
Yeah.